Okay, it's 1 o'clock on the dot. Good afternoon, and welcome to everyone who's joining us here and virtually. It is with great honor and privilege to have you all here for this press briefing for our second presidency of the Council. We have with us the Ambassador, Permanent Representative Ambassador Vanessa Frazier, and our political coordinator, Mr. Darren Camilleri. As usual, we will start with Ambassador going with an overview of the program of work, and then we'll take all the questions here and virtually as well. And without further ado, I give the floor to Ambassador Frazier.
Thank you, Adam. Good afternoon, everyone. I begin by thanking you all for having accepted our invitation to this press conference. We are honored to assume the presidency of the Security Council for a second time in our term as an elected member. During this month, we have two signature events, a briefing on children and armed conflict on 3rd April, which will focus on addressing the consequences of the denial of humanitarian access to children. The briefing will be an opportunity for the Council to hear from the SRSG CAC, UNICEF, and the CSO briefer on the consequences of denial of humanitarian access for children, and to further discuss how the reporting on this denial can inform the Council's actions. We will also have a debate on peace and security in the Mediterranean and the role of young persons, which will be held on the 17th April. This meeting will be chaired by our Foreign Minister, the Honourable Dr. Ian Borge. Traditionally, discussions surrounding the Mediterranean and the Security Council and within the broader UN framework have painted a picture of a region beset with crisis. The narrative emphasizes the challenges of migration, terrorism, conflicts, natural disasters, and human rights abuses. This upcoming Security Council debate aims to foster a more nuanced understanding of the Mediterranean by delving deeper into the root causes of these security issues. The focus will shift to the positive role young people can play in addressing them. We will also have two high-level meetings, the quarterly open debate on the situation in the Middle East, including the Palestinian question, which will be chaired by our Foreign Minister on the 18th of April, with the Secretary General as briefer. An immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza is urgently needed. During our presidency, Malta will remain actively seized, with efforts geared towards ensuring that the Council upholds its responsibility and ensure a ceasefire and the release of hostages held by Hamas. We will also continue to strongly reject any forced displacement of Palestinians inside or outside Gaza, as well as a ground offensive into Rafah. The annual open debate on WPS, conflict-related sexual violence, will be held on 23rd April and will be chaired by our Deputy Prime Minister. SRSG Patton will brief. The meeting will focus on preventing conflict-related sexual violence through demilitarization and gender-responsive arms control. It also aims to identify opportunities for cross-leveraging arms control and disarmament treaties, instruments, and frameworks to prevent CRSV, and to increase women's leadership and influence in decision-making on arms control and exports. On 19th May, my minister will brief the Council in his capacity as chairperson in office of the OSCE. During this briefing, Minister Borge is expected to inform the Council about Malta's main priorities as chair and discuss possible avenues to strengthen OSCE-UN cooperation, under the motto Strengthening Resilience, Enhancing Security. He will emphasize Malta's overarching commitment to upholding the principles and commitments outlined in the Helsinki Final Act and the Charter of Paris. There are also several mandated meetings of utmost importance, namely Colombia, Yemen, Libya, MINURSO, UNMIK, Haiti, Great Lakes, the humanitarian situation in Gaza, and Syria. We have no doubt We have no doubt that we will have other meetings requested during the month, and as Presidency, we will include such requests in the program of work as we go along. Malta is committed to contributing to an effective and efficient Council. Inclusion is an important principle for us. In the run-up to our Presidency, we have met with all countries on the Council's agenda and listened to their views and expectations. We will also be listening to what UN bodies, UN agencies, and regional organizations have to say. Civil society has a key role to play in informing Council members about the situation on the ground. We have invited several CSO briefers to share their views and put forward ideas for the Council to consider. We will implement the shared responsibilities on the shared commitments on WPS by bringing a gender perspective into Security Council agenda items. We will ensure a strong representation of diverse women civil society briefers in Council meetings and support their safe participation. We will also be making WPS and climate-related issues a specific focus of at least one mandated geographic meeting, and we will be convening dedicated stakeouts. I thank you all once again for being here with us, and I'm happy to take your questions.
Thank you. We'll start with Valeria.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Madam Ambassador, for this press conference. And on behalf of the United Nations Correspondent Association, we wish you the best of luck for the busy month ahead. So it's Valeria Robeco from ANSA Newswire. My question is on Gaza. Are you planning to take steps during the months beside the press briefing in the Security Council to put more pressure on them and to ensure the implementation, or trying to ensure the implementation of the ceasefire in Gaza, as the resolution last week just asked for? Thank you so much.
I'm sure we're going to have to schedule a meeting on it. If we see that the resolution continues not to be implemented, there will have to be some form of a discussion of the Council on that.
Thank you, Ambassador. We understand that the Palestinians will be seeking the full membership of the United Nations during the Presidency of Malta in the Security Council. Can you walk us chronologically through the steps, and when will this process start? And I do have a follow-up, if I may.
Okay. So the process has to be kick-started by the applicant state itself, so by Palestine. The Palestinians are expected to present the Presidency with a letter outlining their request for the Security Council to consider full membership to the United Nations. I understand that the letter will be sent to the President of the Security Council, the President of the General Assembly, and also the Secretary General, and will outline the reasons why they believe that they fulfill all the criteria for full membership. We have not seen this letter yet. We expect it in the next few days. As soon as it is received, the Presidency will circulate the letter. Obviously, that's the first step for us. And then we would have to schedule a meeting. We don't know exactly what form, what will be requested in the meeting. In the letter, I mean, if it is full membership, then normally what happens is that the Security Council would meet to discuss the request. The Council would agree to send the request to the Standing Committee on New Members, and the Security Council meeting would close, and it would reconvene in committee format. The Standing Committee on New Membership is the same formation as the Security Council and is presided over by the current Presidency. That meets as a committee, however, the subsidiary body, so it would not meet in the Council, but in a closed meeting in a committee room. And there, the committee would discuss whatever the question, what was requested by Palestine, full membership. Clearly, unless there's anything else, but we're assuming, not having seen the letter, that what will be considered will be full membership. In 2011, there was this process already, and it ended there. We understand that the request could be the continuation of the 2011 process, but we have to see the letter to understand it. If that is the case, then the committee would discuss again the application and the reasons and the arguments which were laid out by the applicant state, and the committee would have to decide by consensus on the next step whether it would recommend the membership to the General Assembly. If the committee cannot agree on the next steps to take, which is what happened in 2011, then the committee would have to terminate its work and send the issue to the Security Council, which would meet in chamber and would vote on whether it would recommend the General Assembly to consider membership. If the Security Council at that point agrees, then the membership is kicked over to the General Assembly, where there will be a discussion and a vote to send it back to the Security Council. Then the Security Council would actually vote. If the General Assembly's decision is for the Security Council to accept the request by Palestine, then there would be a vote on membership. Now, going back a few steps, after the committee meets and the question goes to the Security Council, if at that point the Security Council votes on whether to send the request for deliberation to the General Assembly is vetoed, then the process ends there. But of course, it kickstarts now the process of the veto initiative. So that would be, there would still be a discussion, or the ESS. So there would still be some discussion in the General Assembly. But
can we assume that the ministerial meeting on the 18th of April will discuss this matter in the Middle East forum attended by ministers? And my last point is, we all know, and it's a foregone conclusion, that the United States will veto such a request. Why are we going through this process? Is it just to strengthen world opinion, to use the climate of support to the Palestinians? What's the point?
wait, to answer your last question first, it's not a question to put to me. It's a question to put to the applicant. They know that there might be this outcome, and they have to decide whether they wish to start the process or not. But if they start the process by sending the letter to the Security Council, as presidency, our role is to action it. That's all. So the strategy of it and why not really belongs to the Palestinians and the Arab group. I cannot speculate on why they are doing it or why they aren't. The meeting on until we receive that letter, we don't know. The letter might be received after the 18th, so I don't know. But until I receive the letter, I don't know whether it will be up for discussion on the 18th or not. I would assume that they would want to send it as early in the month as possible, so that there would be a full month under one presidency working on it. We would, of course, action it immediately. So an assumption would be that it would be part of the discussion on the 18th. But that is not what the 18th is. A quarterly mandated open debate on the Middle East. It's not an event which is put on the program by Malta. Yes, it is ministerial level. It is ministerial. Felt it was important because of the situation on the ground, and because there has been this period of Ramadan and the first opportunity for Arab ministers to be in the council after Ramadan and be there in person. So when we were scheduling and preparing our program of work, we felt that it was important for it to be elevated to a higher level, but it is the quarterly open debate.
Ambassador, I just had a really quick follow-up on the process that's involved. The Palestinian ambassador, Mansour, he's arguing that the 2011 application is still pending. So in 2011, that went through the committee process. So is it possible for that step to be skipped and it could just go straight to a vote in the council?
This is what we have to see. So I have to see how the letter is that was received. That will be received. We haven't received it yet. I mentioned that if they request a continuation of the 2011 process, then we would have to see which step we would start at. But if they simply start from scratch, as they had done in 2011, and request the consideration of full membership, then we have to start, obviously, at earlier steps from the very beginning. So we really have to see how the request is received, but we haven't seen the letter yet.
Thank you. My name is Abdul Hamid Sayam from the Arabic daily Al-Quds Al-Arabi. Congratulations, Madam Ambassador, for your assuming presidency for the second time. I have two questions on the question of Palestine. First, as you can see, there are two UN resolutions in the General Assembly calling for ceasefire, 3 Security Council resolutions. 2 of them called for humanitarian pauses, and the last one called for ceasefire. Yet Israel did not abide by these resolutions. And you know, according to Article 25 of the Charter, as every UN Security Council resolution is binding. What else the UN can do? Isn't that compromising the credibility of the Security Council and the UN at large? And my second question, which is related, every people in history who fell under occupation, foreign domination, and oppression were entitled to resist their occupier. Tell me one country that did not fight their occupier and their foreign oppressors. Why only the Palestinians? When they resist their occupier, they are accused of committing terrorism. Thank you very much.
So I answered in the first question about the implementation of the ceasefire. Clearly, if it is not implemented, the Council is going to have to meet to discuss it and decide the next steps as a Council. So we are open to scheduling that meeting. We have only assumed the presidency in the last few hours, haven't formally met as a Council yet. And so, of course, the implementation of the Ramadan ceasefire needs to be discussed before the end of Ramadan for sure. Okay? So with regards to your last question, I'm not going to get into all the details about this country, this group, or that other group, but definitely what happened on the 7th of October, were terrorist acts. So that is our position. But we do not believe in collective punishment. We do not think that all the Palestinians are terrorists. And we believe in the two-state solution. And Malta was one of the earliest countries that has recognized the Palestinian right to statehood. Since 1988, Malta made the declaration of the Palestinian rights to self-determination and statehood. And our position has remained unchanged since then.
Ambassador Xu Dezhi with China Central Television. First, wish you a peaceful month.
Thank you.
So my question on Gaza is, I think it's a short question. Do you have a practical goal on the situation of Gaza? For example, push for ceasefire, push for expansion of humanitarian delivery, or a very concrete or practical goal there? Thank you.
But we could go back to the implementation of 2712, our first resolution, really, because even that was only partially implemented. There was one short pause and some hostages came out. We would have liked to have seen the pause continue. We would have liked to have seen all hostages come out. But in 2712, there was also the deconfliction mechanism, which we saw, which we keep seeing is a problem, is not being implemented, it is not being honored. And that is very, very important. We reaffirmed that in Resolution 2720, and it continues to be something which everybody requests, and one of the major demands by Sigrid Kaag, obviously, also. For her, the confliction mechanism is very important because it allows the sustainable flow of aid into Gaza, which is indisputably not happening, is a big problem, something that is recognized by all governments. So at this point, our goal will be the implementation of the ceasefire, because now it's come to a point where without a ceasefire, it is difficult to implement any resolution. And as we've seen, even the ICJ has said it is difficult to implement the provisional measures by the ICJ without a ceasefire. So finally, our goal is that.
Ambassador, you got 1 week for the Ramadan ceasefire, and good luck.
Thank you. Good luck to the people on the ground who are working very, very hard. I take the opportunity to commend Qatar, Egypt, and the US, who are working incessantly on the ground to try and bring an agreement, a ceasefire, but also a hostage release, humanitarian aid, everything that is needed in a dire fashion, and they are the true heroes.
Oh, sorry. High technology here. Thank you. It's Evelyn Leopold. And do you expect anything on Ukraine, or only if somebody brings it up?
Yeah, so Ukraine is not a mandated meeting. Therefore, it is not in the program of work which was scheduled, which was agreed this morning, because in the initial program of work of a presidency, there's always a mandated meeting and the signature events. But it is inevitable that there will be meetings on Ukraine. Ukraine is an ongoing conflict, which is an important one, which we mustn't lose focus of. And there will definitely, as there have been in every month, we expect calls for meetings. And again, the presidency, we wrote it also in our working methods document, that we will uphold our responsibility to schedule any meeting which is requested.
Hi, Madam Ambassador. Edith Lederer from the Associated Press. And let me say, starting out, we hope that you'll come out to the stakeout often and tell us what's been going on in the Council. First, outcome documents. Are you expecting any document, for instance, on the Women, Peace and Security meeting that you're holding, and on the Middle East and anything else?
We are not planning any of them. The CRSV meeting is to debate the annual report, which will be issued beforehand. So we don't expect anything. However, we are the coordinators for the WPS joint commitments. So there will definitely be a WPS stakeout. So there will be some form of document. But we would welcome if there is a PRST for all events in reality. And with regards to stakeouts, Malta believes very much in the transparency of the work of the Council and communicating the work of the Council. So especially if we meet in closed format, we will try to inform of what has the work that has taken place.
My second question is that you met with the rest of the Council today on the program of work. Mm-hmm. The Russian ambassador for the last few meetings has been asking for a vote on the agenda of every meeting. Is this something that's going to be continued, or that you expect to be continued throughout your presidency, or has some agreement been reached to stop this?
We are very grateful that our program of work was adopted today, which was already a positive step in the right direction and shows that all council members are willing to reach a compromise and consensus and to work in a collegial manner. So that was very important because it also assists the transparency of our work and the communication of the work of the council. However, from what we understand, although it was not discussed today, but from what we understand, the consideration of a vote prior to a meeting has not been retracted. I do not know whether it will be done for every meeting or for particular meetings. We did not discuss it today, and we will just have to wait for our first meeting, and then our second, and then our third to see. Let's take our Italian friend. The Mediterranean has to count for something.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. La tentazione di farla in italiano.
Certo.
No, yeah, I have two questions. One is a follow-up on the credibility of the Security Council. I saw 24 hours after the passage of the resolution, of ceasefire resolution, I saw Palestinian from Gaza. There was, I think it was Al Jazeera program, but it was this Palestinian that had just lost his father, his family, on because there was a bomb after the resolution. And he was screaming, please, to the camera, please, no more resolution. UN, no more resolution. When I pass a resolution, they eat us more. What you will say to somebody that basically, and he looked sincere, he was scared that the UN will pass a resolution and the Israeli will hit them back harder. And the second question, by the way, I'm Stefano Vaccara, La Voce di New York, Etel Press. The second question is about Lebanon. I asked this before also to the spokesperson for Guterres. Well, UNIFIL is being hit lately, also before, but now it's very, very dangerous. And did you receive any letter or anything from the Lebanese government, a request of a specific meeting of the Security Council on this problem? And if you receive it, because they sent it, for example, a month and a half ago, at least that's what I know, when I think it was the French presidency, and nothing happened. So I would like to know if you're going to receive a letter that requests that meeting specific on the problem, what you will do.
Okay. So with regards to the first question, and I really understand the pain that the person must have been feeling, and not only about the immediate loss that he had suffered, but the 5+ months of horrendous things he must have seen and experienced. So I can understand the anger, the frustration, the pain, the disappointment, all of it. But if Security Council resolutions means more wars, then we disband the Security Council. So I do not agree, unfortunately, with his call. First of all, it sets a process for international law and for accountability. The role of the Security Council, as individual members who sit on the council, we receive our priorities from capital, but our responsibilities and our duties are given to us by the Charter. And the Charter says that as a council, we have to maintain international peace and security, which means that the ceasefire resolutions should be step number one when any conflict breaks out. And it is unfortunate that it is translated into making the situation worse, but it is not the reality. It is very important that we exercise our duty to have that resolution ceasefire late. It's true, but it also means that now there is one other binding resolution which is not being implemented, and there are tools and recourse for that. So I think it was an important step that we had to take, and I'm glad that the Council was able to come together and have that passed. With regards to Lebanon, first of all, we did not receive a letter, but we have stated already, and is also in our working methods, that as a presidency, we will schedule any meeting that is requested. Lebanon is a situation which for us is very important. We are a troop contributing country to UNIFIL, therefore we follow what goes on with particular importance and particular interest, because we do have Maltese who are deployed with UNIFIL. It is very worrying for us, and it is, everything is tied in that region. Unfortunately, we talk about the dangers of the spillover effects of the crisis with Gaza, and this is clearly one of them. So we really believe that it is all tied up, that if we do manage to find a way to implement a ceasefire, that we might see some reprieve also on other fronts. But certainly we will be keeping our attention on what is going on in Lebanon.
Thank you very much, Madam Ambassador. I'm Sharifa Chitin from Anadolu Agency. I don't know if you would prefer to answer this in your national capacity or your UN Security Council President capacity. I want to ask you a question about the Israeli raid to the Al-Shifa hospital and According to the reports, there are more than 200 people killed in the hospital around its vicinity. There were reports that people with their hands tied have been buried alive, and Israel has destroyed completely the rest of the hospital. So what's your reaction to this? Do you think Israel is targeting hospitals intentionally? I mean, what's the reason behind this, according to you? Thank you.
I will answer both as presidency and in my national capacity. So as presidency, our role is to discuss any threats to peace and security, and anything that is brought to our attention, we would have to receive an official report, of course, and consider. I think it's all too very soon for us to know. We will discuss it. I am sure that once we have the first reports from the humanitarian agencies, there would be a discussion in Council on the situation of Al-Shifa. And when that request comes in, we will schedule it clearly. As Malta, we have always deplored any attacks on humanitarian sites, civilian sites, protected sites. We have stated that we recognize in Israel's right to protect its country and its population against terrorist attacks. But that right exists in international law, but comes also with responsibilities. In order to exercise this right, you have to exercise it with responsibility. And responsibilities means that the right has to be exercised within the boundaries of international law and international humanitarian law. We have stated in our national statements in the Council that the white flag and the blue flag, the protection that that provides to whoever seeks its protection, must be upheld. And this comes back to all the deconfliction issues that there are. Al-Shifa is a protected site, a deconflicted site. It is a hospital. There is international law which covers this very clearly, and it should not be attacked. Now, we understand that the Israelis say that it loses its protected status because there are Hamas agents therein. We do not know. We do not have the proof of this. But anyway, any exercise of their right to protect themselves and to retaliate against any aggression that they feel has to be done according to the law, and there's also the proportionality and necessity which comes in there.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Yvonne Murray, RTE News. I have two quick questions, if you don't mind. The first question is regarding your event on the Mediterranean. As you may have heard, the UN published figures about the number of migrants who have died or disappeared getting to Europe. Roughly more than 60,000 people have died. Most of them have drowned. The EU has also been heavily criticised over its policies regarding sending migrants back to third countries, such as Libya, where they are known to be subject to very severe human rights abuses. Your event appears to be putting more of a positive spin on the Mediterranean. I'm wondering how that's possible given the circumstances. And my second question is, it's been a year since you sat in this chair as President of the Security Council. What's the main thing you've learned during that past year as an elected member of the Security Council? And how has the Security Council changed you?
Okay, so to talk about the Mediterranean, first of all, it's really disappointing that when anyone speaks about the Mediterranean, the only thing that they can talk about is migration. Our meeting is not about migration, it's about security challenges in the Mediterranean, of which there are many, climate being one, for example. So, and we are taking youth voices. We are giving the opportunity for the YPS agenda to get some visibility in our meetings. Of course, council members can decide to address any aspect that they wish, but it is not a meeting about migration. Simple. And with regards to what I have learned on the council, I have learned that the elected members can be a force to be reckoned with if they are united. And I am very pleased with the force that we have found. We managed to unite the elected members on the Gaza situation, which is a very disuniting file. Ooh, sorry, I'm being attacked. When we were doing our resolution, the first one, I broke this negative cycle on not being able, the Security Council, oh my goodness, the Security Council not being able to to have a voice on the Middle East, we relied very, very much on E10 unity and E10 support for our resolution. And we received a lot of strength from that. And then it was replicated with Resolution 2720. And we took a step further when the outgoing 5 and the incoming 5 came in January. We managed to retain E10 unity and the new formation, which was very heartening and very important for us. We had, Malta's position always was when we were in consultations, when we were with the E10, that this is a file which we have to keep because we can make a difference and we can move this forward. And in the veto initiative debate in March, we are in what month? April, in the beginning of March, Malta delivered, for the first time ever, an E10 statement. The E10 has never had a collective statement, so we showed that the unity remained. And then we were very pleased that the ceasefire resolution managed to be a E10 resolution, 10 pens. So one thing that I have learned is that there is a force that can be harnessed and can make a difference on difficult files. And that each of the individual 10 also find a safe port, a safe harbor. Being together, there is safety in numbers, there is, there is that safety. We might not all have the same exact position, but our end goal for the Middle East is the same: ceasefire, peace, two-state solution. And so we managed to retain it. And I learned, when we were campaigning for the council, everyone told us, "Oh, you're going to join the Security Council at a time when it is so divided, and the elected members have absolutely no weight. Everything is, it's the P5 and their vetoes that decide anything." And I'm really happy that we managed to prove them wrong, and I hope that the countries that are vying for election now in June to join in January have more positive prospects about their role than we did 2 years ago when we were at this time 2 years ago waiting for our election to come up. So those who know me know I rely very, being an athlete, having been an athlete for me is very much a defining part of my personality and my character. And so for me, the teamwork was very important. And I was the one who was, in November, it's, team E10 and continued with it, rallying. And I'm very proud of that. More than the resolutions on black on white, I think that we showed we can do something. I think that was very important. That is what I learned. How has it changed me? Oh, gosh. Physically, I'm older. I have all my hair is white. Wiser. I have become a bit more positive, really. I think I've always been a positive person, but it has. I think that when we are, there's much. The council is not united on many things, it's true, but there's much more unity than one imagines. And when the council is together and when we are at 15, we really do try to work for a consensus and for an outcome. I mean, it really is there. And I have, what has changed, I have changed my outlook on the workings of the council, being on the inside. I have changed my outlook even on the veto, to say the truth. I'm not so negative about it anymore. You wouldn't believe it. For Halloween, I went dressed as a veto because I said it's the monster we're facing, it's a scary thing. So I went dressed as a veto. But I've had, the fact that there is a possibility to cast a veto, people have to understand that it is really the last resort. It is not the first resort. Because there's this elephant in the room, it really gives a lot of space for consultations and for negotiations to try to avoid a veto. So it really is a tool of last resort and absolutely not a tool of first resort. As unfortunately, people see the outcome only. I say it's like a football match. You watch Malta against Gozo, I'm going to say, not to mention another country, and you say, oh, they only finished 1-0, but they would have, for 90 minutes, fought on the field. People just look at the results. That's unfortunate.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. So my name is Yu from Kyodo News, Japanese media. I will change the topic to DPRK, North Korea. So as you know, the panel of expert panel against DPRK will be expired on next Wednesday, 10th April. So do you have any plan to vote again, or do you have any other idea or plan to monitor the sanction against DPRK? Thank you.
We gave a very detailed explanation of vote at the end of the vote on the 17-18 panel of experts renewal. Absolutely, we do not agree with the fact that it was not renewed, the fact that the veto was exercised. We think we cannot understand yet, as new members, we're going to have to figure out it's an unprecedented situation where a sanctions committee cannot rely on the expert advice and reporting of a panel of experts. I have no idea how this is going to be overcome, honestly. I do not have an answer to your question, really. I'm going to be very honestly about it. It will be something we will have to see how it's going to have to be overcome. There's no plans for another vote, but clearly it's not a situation that we can just roll over and accept, I imagine, you know. Sorry, I don't have a better answer.
Dennis Akashevtas, News Agency. I wanted a follow-up on ministerial meeting. So, how many ministers do you expect on 18th of April? And have you received any confirmation that some countries will be at ministerial level? Thank you.
So we were requested by the Arab group to hold this at ministerial level. We're happy to comply. We expect that most of the Arab ministers will be there. We were informed that today's breakfast meeting of the permanent representative, which is the first meeting of for the presidency to discuss the program of work. There were a number of members who already announced that their ministers would be there, council members I'm talking about, and others who are still deliberating, of course. So we expect that it will be, I'm not going to mention individual countries, but we expect that there will be a number of ministers. Remember, this is also an open debate. Therefore, it's not just the regional countries or the council members that can come at ministerial level or that can participate in the debate even at PR level. We would expect 70 to 80 speakers at least, since it's an open debate. And from the indication we have so far, there are a large number of ministers that will be there.
Thanks so much, Ambassador. Wish you very best of luck during your presidency. I have two questions, please. The first one is the follow-up on the situation on 17-18's panel of experts. So correct me if I'm wrong, there is no any other draft resolution as of now on this?
No. Simple question is no.
Okay,
the chair of the 17-18 committee is Switzerland. Maybe it's a question to ask them. But so to date, we have not seen anything to follow up. No.
Okay, my main question is regarding today's reports regarding the Israeli strike on consulate in Damascus. They say that Iranian officials were killed there. So are there any requests from any side to hold the Security Council meeting in this regard?
We haven't had a request so far. This is something that was reported only about an hour ago. We haven't received any request for such a meeting. But again, as presidency, if a request comes in, we will schedule it.
Oh, thank you, Ambassador. My name is Sinan. I'm with Ruda Media Network, a Kurdish outlet. You mentioned that the Mediterranean meeting wouldn't be about the immigrants, and I wonder why. Can you explain to us why, since Malta is in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea, and according to UN reports, Mediterranean Sea became a graveyard for immigrants, especially for the kids, it became a cemetery. And I wonder why we won't see a meeting about immigrants during your presidency.
Because the Security Council is tasked with maintenance of peace and security, and the meeting on the Mediterranean is about peace and security in the Mediterranean. So it's a very simple answer. Do you want to see it online? Does anyone online at once?
We'll just stop for a while to take the questions online from our colleagues online. I have Carlo Zappardi from Malta Today.
Hi, Madam President. Today. So I know you spoke about this, but we had at the
I can't hear.
Can you just give us 1
Either
second?
Carl, either raise your volume or maybe someone go there and shout it out because I can't hear it from here.
Can you hear me better like this?
A bit better, yes. You want to go near the system and tell me what he's asking? Or can we put a microphone up to the... Francesca and Carla, can you hear better? There maybe one, you can then just repeat the question that he has so we don't waste time. I have one of my staff, just say it, don't worry, one of my staff will repeat your question.
No problem. I know you spoke about...
No.
So I know you spoke about this, but we had a bit of audio issues from our end. Does Israel ignore? Does having Israel ignoring the sanctions by the UN Security Council undermine the UN's efforts? And should Israel suffer any consequences for ignoring these resolutions? And maybe on the lighter side, how significant is it for a small country like Malta to host the presidency? Thank you.
So first of all, the resolution is not about sanctions on Israel. Israel is not sanctioned. There's a resolution which imposes certain obligations on Israel, which, yes, they are ignoring. And there is recourse that the Security Council can take, but has not taken that step yet. But of course, we all know that Article 25 of the Charter is very clear that all decisions by the Council is immediately imposed on all members, that it is binding. And so the last resolution that we passed on the ceasefire is binding. We would like to see its implementation, but along with the implementation of all other resolutions related to the Middle East, and frankly, all other resolutions of the Security Council on any situation. There are tools that the Security Council has. It can refer to the International Court of Justice, for example, and it can also consider sanctions, but that step hasn't been taken yet. Regarding the lighter side, I don't know if it's much lighter talking about a small country being presiding over the council. It is very tough every single day, whether you're presiding or not. The pressure is very high. We're really discussing current events which are happening and the impact that the council can have to try and bring peace and to try and save lives and to try and make people's lives better. So there is that pressure that one feels, and there is a frustration also. But I think that a small country like Malta can have a very important effect. The small countries have a role to play on the council. We are a moral compass and we are a moral balance. And I think that the rest of the general membership of the United Nations looks towards the leadership and the role of small countries on the Security Council, because we can be impactful. And I think, I don't know, the judgment is reserved to others, but I think that we have been impactful in the 15 months that we have been on the council. And we have learned a lot, and everybody knows that Malta is on the Security Council. So.
Madam Ambassador, this is Mariam Ramadi with Afghanistan International. My question is actually regarding Afghanistan. As you know, the situation is dire. The women are living under horror of Taliban's edicts and also the security issue, especially the ISIS is gaining power and expanding their activities in Afghanistan. In your national capacity and as a woman and as a member of the Security Council, what do you think of the situation, especially regarding women? And since you're having a meeting on women, peace, and security, are you going to invite anyone from civil society, women's rights activists from Afghanistan? And also, do you have any information on the special envoy that was supposed to be picked by the Secretary General and this assessment report actually directed? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy to move away from the Middle East and talk about other situations that are in front of the Council. Afghanistan is very important for us. As Malta, I'm going to speak now. Malta is one of the countries that is very vocal on the situation in Afghanistan, and in the General Assembly, we are one of the voices. And in fact, today there will be a discussion later this afternoon in the GA about the change amendments to the Crimes Against Humanities Convention, and we are one of the voices that wants to codify gender apartheid, and we think that it is applicable at least in Afghanistan. During CSW, Malta was active, held 2 or 3 events on gender apartheid in Afghanistan. We held one also with Malala on the 8th of March, which is become a bit of a tradition that we start our Women's Day with Afghan women. We did the same last year. Also held a breakfast meeting for Security Council members with Afghan women. But this year, the activity that we did was under the GA, not the Security Council. But of course, it shows Malta's commitment to what is going on in Afghanistan and to women there. So for the WPS meeting, there will be a CSO briefer, but it is not an Afghan briefer. However, Afghanistan will definitely be discussed in the CAC meeting, Children Armed Conflict, and also in the CRSV. It is inevitable. These are horizontal meetings. And so Afghanistan will be one of the countries that will be addressed where there are issues with children and also with conflict-related sexual violence. But on Afghanistan, Malta is an advocate. We really do believe that it is impossible to have a country where 50% of the population is completely marginalized. And we think that the situation needs to be rectified, remedied. We definitely are a supporter of the independent review that was carried out by Ambassador Feridun. And we support the plan that is outlined in his review, which would eventually lead to normalization, but there has to be steps that need to be taken for that. And we look forward also to the appointment of the special envoy, but we haven't heard anything about it, unfortunately. But the sooner it is done, the sooner the work can start.
Thank you again. My question on UNRWA, Madam Ambassador. There are reports now, reported today by The Guardian, that Israel is debating the dissolution completely of UNRWA with the US and other European countries. How do you react to that, and do you support the maintenance of UNRWA and strengthening its role in Gaza? Thank you.
Thank you very much for this really important question. Malta is one of the countries that has continued to support UNRWA. We absolutely support the actions that were taken by the Secretary General. We think that he acted very swiftly and professionally, even though there wasn't substantial evidence. The evidence was circumstantial. It was important enough and credible enough to take immediate action. We support what he did with the immediate suspension of the indicated persons and calling for the review. The report by Catherine Colonna is due on the 20th of April. We will wait for that outcome. We will definitely schedule a debate in the Council once the report has been digested by the Council members, has been received and digested by the members, and we look forward to that. And I take the opportunity to inform that there will probably be a meeting on UNRWA at Council level, because we received a letter from Jordan requesting a meeting at ministerial level. So probably on the afternoon of the 17th of April, whilst ministers are in town to participate in the ministerial meeting of the 18th, we will schedule the requested meeting on UNRWA.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Ambassador. back to the Middle East also, and on the question of sanctions, a bit of a follow-up. Do you believe that given Israel's response to the Security Council resolution so far has been more attacks, more civilian deaths, less aid to civilians, more starvation, do you think it is time to evoke sanctions? And who should do that? Who should be the one to initiate that step? And the second question, what is your national position regarding Palestinian statehood? Do you believe Palestinians should have full membership at the UN? And if the process begins, would you support it? Thank you.
I think that I have already answered most of your questions with other questions. So, with regards to sanctions, I think it will on Israel. I think it will take longer for the Council to try to reach an agreement to pass a resolution on starting to impose sanctions or introducing a sanctions mechanism. So I think what is important, because people are really dying every single day, is that the efforts are focused on implementing the Security Council, and international pressure should be placed on all the parties to adhere to the Security Council resolutions and implement the ceasefire. I really think that that is where we can get action quicker than anything else, unfortunately, the reality of it. Going on to Palestine, yes, Malta does recognize Palestine. Already in 1988, Malta recognized the right of Palestinians to statehood. So recently, my Prime Minister was part of a group of 4 European Prime Ministers who, on the margins of the last European Council, signed a letter declaring that we will recognize Palestine. And it is a bit of a strange situation, and questions were asked about Malta, because it is taken for granted that Malta recognizes Palestine already. It's just that we did it too early, probably is the issue, that before a definition of a Palestinian state and the relevant UN resolutions carved out what the borders should be and what have you, we had already recognized the rights of the Palestinian people to statehood. So we recognize Palestine, but we recognize the right to statehood, but now we need to do the formal recognition of the state of Palestine. So it's a bit... We were in this strange situation where we were ahead of our time, basically. That was done in 1988, and we're ahead of our time. So now the Prime Minister announced, along with Prime Minister of, Spain, Slovenia, and I can't remember, and Ireland, I think it was, the 4. Ireland, right, were the 4. That the step will be taken. Malta also has a principled position that any country that aspires to join any multilateral organization should be supported. So whether it's an applicant state, it's not an issue, it's not Palestine to the UN. For us, it is any country that aspires to join any multilateral organization should be supported in their quest for membership. So the obvious answer would be yes, obviously, for this particular, but it's just a principled position we have.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. A quick question about Haiti. I see you have a briefing on BINU on the afternoon of the 22nd. Are you going to try and bring, for instance, the Kenyans and other countries that have pledged police to this multinational force here to try and put some pressure on to actually get this mission deployed?
So the meeting on the 22nd is the mandated meeting. We understand that there will be high-level representation at that meeting, but I would not discount that the situation is so dire on the ground that there would be an earlier meeting that would be scheduled. But it would have to be called because of the situation. The meeting on the 22nd is mandated, is the regularly mandated reporting meeting. And definitely, yes, obviously the launching of the MSS. We expect on the 22nd, we expect even the Foreign Minister of the Dominican Republic to be present. So it will be an important meeting.
Yes.
Yes, Ambassador Frankie Ciardo from TRT World. Thank you for having this press conference today. In light of all the hard work that you put together in cobbling together a ceasefire resolution, What is your reaction to the Biden administration sending another round of weapons and bombs to Israel?
That's really not a question a diplomat can answer. But I can state that our position is full square for the implementation of a ceasefire resolution, and everything should be done for that, and anything that goes contrary should not be acceptable.
Do we? Yeah.
Yes. Oh, there's a bit of news that just broke in Israel that Prime Minister Netanyahu has stated that he will be closing Al Jazeera operation in Israel. Your reaction on the freedom of press, etc., etc.
I think for rule of law and freedom of press, it is absolutely unacceptable to hear a head of government make such announcements. It is. I'm almost at a loss for words. I don't even know what to say, really. It's not acceptable. We believe in freedom of the press. We already think that it is a very difficult situation for press. Press is not allowed to report in Gaza. The press has not been protected in Gaza, has been targeted, has suffered many, many casualties, which is absolutely unacceptable because it does violate international law. And is a crime, and we believe in the freedom of the press, and that the closing of a news agency is absolutely not an acceptable declaration.
Unless we have any more questions, unfortunately, Ambassador Frazier has to go to another meeting right now. So thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.